Hey all, welcome to Reco12. This meeting is once again a little bit different than previous meetings that we've had. It's going to be much like the one from a couple of weeks ago. Our guest speaker that we had scheduled was unable to show up and be there as we started recording. So we went into the meeting with a hope that things would work out, just like they did a couple of weeks ago. The topic of choice was service and giving back, and I want to share a little passage from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous here that relates to how I felt when we first started this meeting and how things came together in the end. This is from page 15 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it starts out here and says, "I was plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment. This sometimes nearly drove me back to drink, but I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day." And I soon found that in my experience today. You know, when the guest speaker didn't show up, I felt some fear, some self-pity, some resentment. And then I went into the process like we did a couple of weeks ago and opened it up to the floor after doing a little share myself. And I'm so grateful that work with another addict, worked with other addicts, saved the day. We had several people come in and help out with that. We had Ella, we had Margarita, we had Terese, and Stephan K. And I'm grateful for all of them. Here we go. Welcome to Reco12. My name is Justin, and I am a child of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a recovering addict, and am blessed to be the host of this meeting and podcast. Reco12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addictions of all kind, and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. We come together from all places, faiths, and backgrounds to gain tools and hope from others who are walking this path. Speakers from our past meetings have represented so many fellowships, addictions, and afflictions, and we look forward to hearing from their messages and continuing to add to the diversity of speakers and backgrounds. Today's speaker, well, it's going to be us for the 184th meeting, and I'm excited about that. We'll have a couple of shares. We'll do some Q&A. We'll kind of shoot from the hip again. Looks like practicing some acceptance. Now, the topic for today was service. So keep that in mind. If you are in the live audience here and you have something you would like to share about service, your experience in step 12, in working with others and serving others, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that. But we're going to jump into a little bit of business before getting into that. The Reco12 family of recovery resources continues to grow and have more resources for the addict and the loved ones of those addicted. If you have not yet listened to any of the other Reco12 podcasts, including Reco12 Shares, Reco12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M, and the Reco12 Big Book Roundtable podcasts, I highly recommend you check them out wherever you listen to podcasts. I've put those links, and we'll put those links in the chat again here during this meeting in case you would like to check them out. Your donations and subscriptions are making all of this possible, as there are costs to build and maintain these services. On that note, Reco12 is a self-supporting service, and we appreciate your help in keeping us working our Step 12 in this manner. I would love to thank a few of our spearheads and donors from this last week. Thank you to Catherine, Joseph, Alan, and Dory for your donations. Those really help in our mission to share this message with others. And if you would like to become a spearhead and support Reco12 in our mission, please consider going to www.reco12.com/support and making either a one-time donation or becoming a monthly spearhead donor. We're grateful for anything that comes our way, if that's what works within your budget and that's what your higher power is nudging you to do. We look forward each meeting to receiving from the light reflected from our speakers. Today, it looks like that light is going to be from us in the audience. I'll get us started. Hopefully, there's a little bit of light coming from me in this, but that light hopefully inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. All right, so today's topic, and that I prepared for with our guest speaker who doesn't appear to be able to make it, is service. And service being, step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening, we tried to share this message with others in practicing these principles and all we do. And I'm a little bit scattered a little bit right now, and I don't have it in front of me. That's not word for word, but let's get into that. And I want to share a little bit about service in my life. And then what we'll do is, if there's anybody here in the live audience that would like to get in and share a little bit of how they work their step 12, their experience, strength, and hope in that, go ahead and raise your hand in the audience. There's the raise hand icon at the bottom of the Zoom window, and we'll get to you as time goes on. Once again, this is us practicing some acceptance, that things are exactly how they should be. And all right, I'm going to breathe just a second, and we're going to get into this. All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, step 12, service, is the topic of this meeting. I am so grateful for those who came before me, who were willing to sacrifice the time of their time in their lives to give back to me when I was desperate and needed it. And I remember, and I've shared this in a couple of instances, you may or may not have heard this before, but when I first went through the steps with my sponsor, we got to step 12. We've quote unquote finished. I quote unquote graduated. And he said, "Okay, Justin, it is now time for you to start sponsoring someone else." And I just kind of went, I'm not ready for that. I'm only sober a few months here. I've only been in program a handful of months. I'm not ready to sponsor another person. And my sponsor, I was in his home. He lived in the same, only a couple miles from me. So I went to his house to meet with him once a week. And he said, "Well, Justin, congratulations on working an 11-step program. Good luck staying sober. Get out of my house." And I just remember thinking, whoa, panic. Man, miracles are happening. I don't want it to stop. I'm not ready, but what do I need to do? And I said, "Just kidding. Okay, let's do this. I'm just going to be relying on you to help me with that." And he goes, "That's fine. I'm here. I'm your sponsor. I'm here to help you." And he started me sponsoring right away. I immediately picked up a couple of sponsees and started working with them and going through it. And I'm just grateful for the time that he sacrificed to give to me, and the example he set for me to give back to others in step 12. One of the concepts of giving back is that, and one of the truths that I have learned in my own recovery is that I get more than I give when working with a newcomer, with somebody who is working the steps. We learn, well, I've learned this from experience, that when I share with another, that oftentimes what they share back, or what I hear coming out of my mouth, is something that I learn from. Even a newcomer can say something that just blows my mind and opens my eyes to something brand new. And I'm super grateful for those opportunities. For those who are just coming in now, our guest speaker today was unable to make it. And so we're doing kind of what we did a couple of weeks ago, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, when we had a similar situation. If you in the listening audience have something you'd like to share about step 12, about service in your recovery life and how you apply to that, just raise your hand within the audience. I'll bring you in. Remember, this is being recorded. But if you heard the episode from a couple of weeks ago, I think there's some really good stuff. So anyways, another thing I want to share about in regards to the concept of service is, as I first started in the rooms of recovery, and September marks 10 years that I first came into the rooms, I had no idea. Well, my only goal was to get sober, to stay sober, to fix the mess. Well, my thought was to fix the mess. And, in 12 weeks, I will have gone through these 12 steps, and then I graduate and I go off and I live a normal life. I learned very quickly that was not the case. That this, if I am serious about recovery, this is a one day at a time for the rest of my life until I'm safely dead, is how my initial sponsor told me. I get to work this program every day, one day at a time, until I'm safely dead. And initially that brought a lot of hopelessness to me. I thought, I'm going to be stuck in this place forever. But the growth that has happened, anyways, where I was going with that, 10 years ago, I had no idea what my recovery life, what my life would look like 10 years later. I hoped it would be that I was healed and never had to deal with these issues ever again. I hoped that I could just get on with my life and get get back to some semblance of normalcy. I'm grateful that the semblance of normalcy today is me living in recovery and striving to practice these principles in all my affairs and everything that I do. Um, the the concept, the step 12 concept, one of the big ways that I work step 12, yes, I sponsor others, but is in doing this service, this Reco12 stuff. And I'm not a communications major. I'm not a DJ. I'm not those people, but I am somebody who has always been able to communicate ideas and thoughts well. I've always been very curious and wanted to ask questions of people and understand where they come from and how things work in their minds. And so, a handful of years ago, and I'm not going to go back through the whole history of how Reco12 was developed, but handful of years ago, I started thinking, these things that I'm learning, I want to share, I want to record them somehow. And that eventually turned into recording a podcast, which eventually turned into a long form conversation podcast where I interviewed people. And after doing that for a while, I wanted to do something for recovery, and I turned it in. Well, I feel that God guided me to do this. And this is one of the big ways I work my step 12 and serve. So I'm grateful that, I'm sitting here with 20 some odd people sitting in a live audience as I talk about this, and it's a miracle to me. And as was mentioned last week, Reco12 has now been downloaded way over almost like 120,000 times now, different episodes. And if somebody would have come to me 10 years ago and say, "Hey, Justin, you're going to do something in recovery that, potentially 120,000 people are going to be affected by it in some way, shape, or another," I would have said, "What? No." And that's where I want to focus here on my experience, strength, and hope with service, is that it's not about the big things. It's not about doing something that is going to affect 120,000 people. It's about me working with an individual, reaching the one person that's in front of me right then that I have a stewardship with. And from there, when I straighten out spiritually, the physical, the emotional, the relational, all of these other things start to fall into place. And my little tiny curl up in the corner self, me that is hiding from everything, suddenly starts to expand a little bit. And the influence I have with my spouse, my family, my children, my extended family, my neighbors, my whatever, starts to grow. And I'm able to serve them, not just in recovery, but in life. In somehow, some way, when I get outside of myself, my time opens up. That's a miracle that I've experienced in my own life, is that giving back hasn't diminished my availability to help others. Giving back actually kind of expands my plate. Yes, my plate can get full, and God can say, and I can say, "You know what? I don't have room on my plate for that right now. But I've got room on my plate for this, and I can help out in another way." I may not have room on my plate to take on another sponsee. I may not have room on my plate to go help somebody move right now. But you know what I can do? I can order pizza and send it to them that are going to move or whatever. I can do something. And that's something that has really helped me out a ton in my recovery journey. So what I'd like to do is open up the floor now to anybody who wants to come in and share a little bit about service in their lives. Or if you have a question, type it in the Q&A link or in the chat, and I will answer some questions. All right, we've got our first person who raised their hand. I'm going to bring Ella in here. And Ella, once you get in here, we'll have you talk a little bit, and then I'll ask you a question or two. Ella, welcome.
Hi. Oh, I was afraid I was going to disappear there for a second. Thank you for having me here and letting me share.
Absolutely. Have at it.
All right. So I love this topic right now because for me, it has been an issue. I've always had the desire to help, but as I've grown in recovery, I've realized how, and being a codependent and an Al-Anon, like there's this manipulative side of wanting to help, to be of service. So it's been interesting to learn to check myself, how we say in the with the spiritual gangsters, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because I was always wrecking myself with that. I was like I didn't know, like it was an enigma for me. Why is it that I don't get what I want? Because I wanted something when I was trying to be of service. I really wanted something. So now that I know how it is, I still like put my hand up like I'm doing right now, but I check myself. I really asked before I come in, and I say, oh, is this of value? Is this worth like sharing, before I actually like just put my hand up because of like whatever it is. No, my Al-Anon issues, my codependent issues. Is this of value? And I heard a yes. And oftentimes another side of this is that when I want to share, or when I want to be of service, it has another side when I say, yeah, like I want to talk, I want to be like a share, a longer share. And there's a lot of fear behind it. There's so much fear. Once I've said yes, it's like, why did I say yes? And now I don't even want to do it, like I don't want to. And it's this whole process, but like you were sharing just before, there's so much gained after, because if I connect to higher power and just let it sit on my tongue and speak through me, then I'm back in this place. And like, for example, just before this meeting, I was completely overtaken by my ego. I was outside of my higher power, which is inside of me, in my heart. So I had to meditate, and then I saw, oh, this meeting is coming up, and so this is it. And I felt like back in this state of happy, joyous, and free. And then it's like, oh yeah, this is the right place. So service, like the big book says, like if it says it for sex issues, like if sex is so, I'm also not right now in big book talk, which is funny, like it's happening to everyone, like I'm jumbling up my words. But if sex is an issue, then just throw yourself more into helping others. So that's it. Like I've got the knowledge now, just put it into practice. And with that, I share and I pass. Thanks for
awesome. Thanks, Ella. Are you open to answering a question or two that I may have for you here?
Sure.
Awesome. Yeah, one of the things you shared is something that I really deal with a lot. How do you differentiate giving service, helping others, giving back without jumping into either the codependency or the manipulation of others to get what you may want in return? What do you do to deal with that?
Well, for me, it's been a real like I've been teachable by mistakes. Like I've just, and not feeling good, like really reviewing after. If I don't feel good, then I have to write an inventory. Like that's what I do, an inventory, and do outreach. And that's been my experience. Mistakes have let me know that's probably it for me. Like mistakes have made me understand much more than if I had not made them. And it's given me growth. So it's not fun, but at least if I learn the lesson well, I don't repeat it as like I don't fall on my face as hard anymore.
Oh, I hear you there. And sometimes, hopefully I learned the lesson like what you said, so you don't fall on your face as hard each time. It hopefully is a little bit less of a fall each time. At least that's my experience. Thank you so much, Ella. I appreciate your willingness to share. And if there's anybody else out there that would like to jump in, we'll do that. Ella, I will now put you back as a participant. Thank you for your help and willingness. All right, we've got the next person in. Margarita, hang on just a sec. I will get you promoted to a panelist. All right. Margarita, if you want to come off mute, and if you want to, you can put your camera on. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But we're happy to have you on here. Tell us a little bit about your experience with service. Grateful for your willingness to jump in here.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you for your beautiful service. I've been following Reco12 for a while now, and I really had gotten a lot of recovery here. And, I appreciate it. Thank God. Thank you. And what I would like to share about service is that sometimes it, as always, is in my mind what I think it should look like and what I really, might be able to do. And it's any little thing that I do, even sharing in a meeting, or when we used to be more like in on the present meetings, when we set up the chairs and we did coffee and we did all that and we put the literature out. And even if you thought that was small, it was pretty big, because for the newcomer, um, when I remember when I was a newcomer and I had no clue when I first walked into the rooms of Al-Anon. And I appreciate that so much that I found the literature open in there to buy, and people to help me and to answer questions. So that is first. And then second, I am sponsoring one person right now. I wish, like in my mind, I wish I was sponsoring 20 people, 100 people, like I hear Nikki. But one at a time is also good, and it's good for me more than what I think is doing for them. Of course, it's a service for the person as well, but for me to do the steps again, it's for me to learn and for me to see myself in the newcomer, and to learn from my own mistakes. And thank you for talking about mistakes. I just made a mistake at work, and I don't like making mistakes. I don't like people to tell me that I made a mistake, and I don't take it well. I sometimes I need to do step 10s immediately, which I did. And I did like more than one step 10 on the same issue, on the same people sometimes, because it's me, and my addiction is about hurting myself. My mind is after me. It's not like after other people. So I have to watch that. And I have to watch what my body, my mind is doing to me daily. And in recovery, I learned that instead of ignoring me and ignoring what is good for me, and service is good for me. So thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely, Margarita. Thank you for your share. I do have a question for you. You talked about, before, when almost all meetings were in person, we were present with other people and doing service, setting up chairs, making coffee, those types of things, literature type things. Now that many people seem to do more meetings virtually, kind of like what we're doing right now, how do you find opportunities to serve in those types of meetings and those types of fellowships?
I am the worst like at sharing, but I know the first sharing is service. But I get so shy or so afraid, like, what am I gonna say? I don't have anything in my mind right now to share. But sharing has helped me, and I'm trying to get out of that habit of not sharing. Like, that's why I raise my hand right now. So sharing is one. Offering, I used to do the note taker for one of the meetings in spiritual gangsters, and just staying after and helping. Now I am doing the two-way prayer host. I know how to do the tech. I know how to do chat in there, and I know how to do uh, the fellowship, or whatever they need me to do. I'm so grateful. Is a way of gratitude to do service. So I jump on those opportunities to do that, and they just trained me on being the host, and I had no idea that being the host implies so much concentration. And it's a big service for the people that have been doing it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. And I have an sponsee also, and it's virtual. She's in Uruguay, and I am in the States. So what would we do without this media? And we have to use this media for good. Sometimes it's being used for defamation or for other stuff that are not good, but we have to use this media now for good. And our recovery gives us that chance. So thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Margarita, and thank you for your service, international service, sponsoring someone in Uruguay. What a beautiful thing. I'll put you back in the attendees, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. While I'm doing that, if there's anybody else who would like to jump in and share a little bit about their experience, strength, and hope on service, you're welcome to do so. If you would like to ask a question, just a general question, that we can address here, please feel free to do so by doing that in the Q&A link at the bottom of your Zoom window. One of the things that Margarita said there that I just loved, and I've experienced that, is, to the newcomer, when they come in and they see others sharing, when they hear others experience strength and hope, and especially when they hear another newcomer, maybe somebody who's only been in for a couple of weeks and is still just scraping away and in white knuckle abstinence and just getting into the solution, they hear that hope and they hear that service given by somebody who's brand new. Somebody doesn't have to be through step 12 before they start sharing. Somebody, in fact, please, when I go into a meeting and I hear a newcomer get in and listen for a little bit and see how things go and how they work, and then jump in and share and just say something like, "I'm dying. I'm here because I can't get my stuff together, and I'm dying, and I just need help, and I see hope here." And every time I hear somebody say that, it just brings me hope. And I immediately, if I'm in a virtual room, will send them a direct message saying, "Hey, here's my phone number. Let's talk." Or if it's in a face-to-face room after the meeting, I run up to them, I grab them, I say, "Hey, I'm glad you're here. You're in the right place. Let's keep coming back." All right. Does anybody have any questions or any other experience that they are willing to jump in and share? We've got a little bit of time here that we can fill, but yeah, this is always just a good time to get in here as we go through that. Let's see. As I'm waiting for anybody else or anything else, I'm going to. Oh, something that was said earlier by Ella that I made a note of but didn't ask about. It's something that I had a sponsor. He wasn't a sponsor, a mentor of mine in recovery tell me once. He said, "Justin, you're one who really likes to talk. You're one who always feels like you've got to jump in and say something. And most of the time it's good stuff. But you need to ask yourself a question. Do I have something to say, or do I have to say something? Sometimes I'm uncomfortable with the silence and I feel like, oh, I have to say something. But if it's just me saying I have to say something, it may not be super helpful. But if I ask myself the question, do I have something to say? And basically ask God that question, do I have something to say here? And if so, it can come in and I can say something that is hopefully of value, hopefully reflects the light that inspires hope, worth, meaning, and growth in our lives. As I always say at the beginning of these things, that's kind of one of I'm going to go there. One of my mottos in my personal life that I carry over into my recovery life, and it's something that I have worked on. I've worked with others about to try and narrow this down. My reason why is that I strive to inspire people to see their own worth, and I do that. I try to seek guidance from my higher power so that I can reflect light, which inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in others. Now, do I always succeed? No, but I'm grateful to have that focus in my life. And I think that's something that helps me keep a service. Well, it helps motivate me to be more service oriented. I'm still very naturally selfish. I'm still very naturally want to do what I want to do. But if I remember that really the reason I believe that God has put me here on earth is to help inspire people to see their own worth, inspire others to see their own worth, does this. That was the reason why I went from the first podcast I did called Know and Do into Journey Through Life, which was a long form conversation. I just wanted to talk to regular old people and ask them about their lives, and then help them see the value they have in their own lives, the value they bring into their family, into the world, into the community, whatever it may be. And as I've done this Reco12 now for 180, I think this is the 184th meeting of it. That's my prayer each time. God, help me facilitate a way to help the person who's speaking or the live audience feel something, that they are of value, that they are of worth, that they have something to give in this life. And that helps me a ton. I don't think I've ever shared that whole process, that motto that I have here. So I open myself up a little bit behind the scenes, and I'm grateful to be able to do that. But yeah. Is there anybody else in the live audience here? We've got a little over 20 people. And if anybody else has something they feel that they are being moved upon to share, jump in. I know it's scary. I know that it can be nerve-wracking, but I'm grateful for those who have done it and for those who are listening, either way, whether you share or not. Oh, you know what? We've got somebody else in here. I'm going to bring her in. Hang on just a second. We got Terese. Hang on just a second, and I will get her in. All right. Terese, am I pronouncing that correctly? Terese? Go ahead and come off mute. There we go. Are. Awesome, Terese. Thank you. Yeah. Jump in and share a little bit of your experience, strength, and hope. Thank you.
About service. Yes. I was really intrigued when you brought up that question about what is codependency and taking care of others, and what is service? Because you're right. When I first heard about service, I thought, I'm doing this all the time. I'm taking care of my kids. I'm taking care of my house. What more? I don't have the energy to do anything else. So I didn't understand what service was. I know now that service is doing my higher power's will, is what it is. First, I need to get myself on a healthy by working these 12 steps. And once I do that, I just ask my higher power every morning through two-way prayer, how can I best be of service today? And just be open to opportunities that are out there. I'm not doing things for my ego. I'm not raising a hand in a meeting because I want to show off what I know. It's my higher power. Is there anything I can do here is there anything I need to share? And let my higher power prompt me. I mean, there's no way I would ever want to share on your meeting right now. But my higher power is like, yes, you guys think you have a lot of good recovery, Terese. I've been in Al-Anon 35 years, and I've been in sex and love addiction recovery about 2.5 years. So I really feel like I'm in a good place. And service is mainly service for my higher power to help others. I really think that is what the point is, for me to show the love higher power showing to me, that I show that love to somebody else so that I can lead them to their higher power. I feel like that's one of the things of service, especially sponsoring, is I want to lead the sponsee by the hand to their higher power and deposit her there. That is my job. And then their higher power can take over talking with them and telling them how to be of service. So it's a wonderful go-round. So I love service. I too am part of Spiritual Gangsters, and I think they give a great workbook on how to sponsor. And then I let my higher power bring people to me to sponsor. I don't have to advertise or, be hunting for sponsees or to be of service. My higher power sends people to me. And it's funny, this last sponsee I have, when I first met her, I thought, oh gosh, I don't know if I could help her. And then the next thing I know, like a week later, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, she wants me to sponsor her. And then I totally see when my will, you can see when my will gets in the way, it's like, oh, I can't help her. But when God's will gets in there, all of a sudden everything is possible. And it's like, well, of course, if my higher power wants me to sponsor her, of course, I'll be happy to. So that's my take on service.
Beautiful. And thank you for being willing to jump in, Terese, and share that. I love that concept that you shared. I don't, for me is what you shared. I don't have to go out searching for a sponsee. My higher power brings that sponsee to me. And you shared a beautiful example of that. What a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing, Terese. I really appreciate it. We've now got another person who wants to jump in. So I'll put you back in the audience and we'll get out and do that. Thanks, Terese.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead and come off mute and tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about Step 12 service for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Justin. Yes, I'm Stephan, and I am recovering alcoholic, drug addict, codependent, and sex and love addict as well. Thank you so much for this topic of service because, just yesterday I celebrated 20 years in active recovery from alcoholism, and along the way, I picked up other programs that I found that were useful for me. But even in just sharing this milestone of recovery, I do feel is a bit of service that shows that we do recover and that long-term sobriety can be achieved. I found that service has been an integral part of my recovery. When I first got sober, I was in a treatment program, and one of the requirements was to get a service position at any meeting, and back then I was just cleaning up chairs and just doing cleanup. But the part of being of service actually made me feel a part of the program as opposed to a spectator or someone that is just here to receive. Service allowed me to feel that I had something to give, and I do believe that's been the key for my long-term recovery. My recovery hasn't always been great, but service has always been a part of it because I've continually felt a part of the recovery communities I've been a part of. And one thing that I also feel that is important for recovery is that it's been brought up also that it's not necessarily about, for me, with one alcoholic working with another directly, as much as my service to my groups, to general service, to even to young people's committees that I've been a part of. All of those things have also been an important part of service for me, and not necessarily working that 12 step. Although I do believe in that is a part of doing 12-step work as well. There's a lot of background work that happens to make meetings like this and other meetings possible, so that this program is available for the alcoholic or addict that still suffers to have a place to come to when they need it. So with that, I'm really grateful to come off mute and share with this. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephan. I do have a question for you, and it's one that I could have asked Terese also, but I want to ask you, as you just celebrated 20 years in Alcoholics Anonymous abstinence. What a beautiful miracle and an amazing thing that is. The question I have for you, though, is how have you kept things fresh in your recovery? I mean, you're 20 years in. What have you learned in the last year, let's say, that has kept your recovery fresh and kept you coming back?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So as I qualified myself within the last year, I have identified as being a sex and love addict, and so have brought in other programs that I feel that there's, as I peel back the layers of the onion, I do find that there's additional work for me, just that's not necessarily me putting a plug in the jug. So as I do more work, I find that there's more work on myself. I find that there is more and more work to be done, and so through that, I've kept things fresh by finding other programs, finding other groups. Whenever I travel, trying to just interact with others who are in recovery, and seeing if I can get something from each one of them.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Stephan. So for this next Saturday, I'll be presenting a short, like 10-minute talk in a conference And one of the things that I will be sharing about is how I'm keeping things fresh and how I want to continue to learn from people like you, Stephan, who have been in program for 20 years, like Terese, who's been in program for 35 years, like some of the other people that I've had on here that have been 50 years and, 10 years and 15, all of these different years. I want to interact with people like that have what I want, because it inspires me to keep moving and realize I don't know it all, and I'm not going to learn it all in year 10 or in year 2 or in month 6. I can keep the program fresh. Thank you so much, Stephan, for your willingness to share. I'll put you back in the audience now, and unless there's anybody else who wants to jump in and share, we can start the close down here. I'll give you a minute here if you've got something you want to share. You got just a few seconds to jump in and do that. If not, I'm going to go into the outro of Reco12. All right, guys, thank you so much for making this another unplanned, uncomfortable, but great Reco12 weekly speaker meeting. Jump in the WhatsApp community. Record a Reco12 shares on the SpeakPipe link that is in the show notes of the podcast. I'll also post it in the chat of this meeting here. I'm going to do it after I do this reading because I can't multitask. I'm not as cool as other people. But there's a lot of ways to work our Step 12 in the Reco12 family. While Reco12 is not a fellowship per se, it's not affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. It's open to anybody, anywhere. I'm grateful for any service given, whether that's in donations, whether that's in shares and questions asked in WhatsApp group, whether that's in people being willing to jump in and share in the meeting, whether that's people saying, hey, I want to be a future speaker in this meeting. If you want to be a future speaker in Reco12, let me know. Send me an email to reco12pod@gmail.com. We'll get you lined up. I'm booking things into December and January now, and that's really cool. But get in there. Let's do this. Next week, we'll be doing things a little bit different again. As I alluded to earlier and said earlier in the meeting, I will be, I have been invited to participate in the SA Lifeline conference as a volunteer and as a speaker next weekend. So travel and preparation meetings will make our normal meeting time next week impossible. Gratefully, our speaker next week, David F. from the UK, was able to adjust and work with me on that. And we'll be going live on Tuesday, September 5th at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. We'll go live. We'll have a meeting like this live on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And then I'll release the recording of it normally as I would on the podcast on Friday. And we'll do that next week. Now, David will be speaking to us. His talk is entitled "Cross Addiction is My Story." And I'm excited to hear about this. This is somebody I've spoken with a couple of times, and I'm excited about it. It's his first time doing something like this, and he's a little bit nervous, but man, he's going to do an amazing job. Now, if you're interested for whatever reason in checking out the SA Lifeline Conference, whose theme is Come Heal With Us, a community focus on recovery from the effects of pornography, sexual addiction, and betrayal trauma, I'll post a link to that here in the chat in the show notes, and it'll also be there on the podcast. It can be attended in person or virtually. If you have questions on that or anything else Reco12 related, please send an email to reco12pod@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer those questions. Now, we're going to launch into the rest of our day with the Serenity Prayer. Yeah, I'm going to do the Serenity Prayer. That's the one that was asked to do by our initial speaker, and I'm still going to do it. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, like this meeting that went differently than I planned. Courage to change the things we can, like those who stepped in and shared their experience, strength, and hope and made this meeting a good one, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not ours, be done. Amen. All right, everybody. There's one who has all power. That one does amazing things. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
There was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth, and he wanted to scream, but the sound never came out. So he reached for the bottle to wash the pain away, 'cause what he wanted so badly was to live a different way. And all of his problems and all of his pain filled up the puddle and rose with the rain. His ship kept on sinking to the bottom of the lake, and he knew for certain that he was just a fake, just a fake. Was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth, and he wanted to share, but only lies ever came out. So he reached for the needle to numb the pain inside, and the truth that he yearned for shriveled up and died. And all of his problems and all of his pain filled up the puddle, rose with the rain. The ship kept on sinking to the bottom of the lake, and he knew for certain that he was just a fake, just a fake. There was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth as he read from the book, only truth spilled out. So he reached for a power to help him through the night, 'cause what lives in the darkness dies in the light. Yeah, what lives in the darkness dies